Can't begin to tell you how excited we are for the first installment of Celebrate 98. Thanks to Fred White for helping pull all of this together. And certainly Tennessee Cider Company would not happen without this. So we look back on the 25-year anniversary. There is no way that it's been that long, but yes, it has. And we are going to talk about the national championship team of 1998. And it is brought to you by Tennessee Cider Company, the first cidery to set up shop in Gatlinburg, surrounded by the mountains that hold and defend a spirit. These guys can defend. It's Fred White and Eric Westmoreland. And Fred, we've been looking forward to this for a long time. And Eric, I'm excited to talk to you. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. When Fred pitched this to me, I was like, hey, let's go. Let's tell our stories.
Man, it's going to be awesome. Fred, how has it been 25 years, sir?
Yeah, Dave, when you said we've been waiting on this, I was like, man, we waited 25 years. It's been a long time coming. But, it's been, man, I don't know how people realize how our bonds grew even closer, even though we're not in the same space. And we've grown in years, but our bond is still the same. I can make a phone call to Eric Westmoreland or Jeff Hall or Chad Clifton or Al Wilson or whoever. And that love that we had back then is still the same. That's why I don't think you can win championships without it.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Amen to that. And Eric, before we dig into some of the memories of the 98 team, you're still all ball. Tell us what you're up to for those that may not know.
Yeah, so I'm down here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, coaching at the Baylor School. So I coach football, basketball, and baseball. So we just finished up with our JV baseball season. So then I'm going right into spring practice next week. So I'm just staying busy and coaching the kids up.
So Eric, for those younger than us, because there are some of those now that may not remember the 98 team, played linebacker. Mm-hmm. Fred, a lot of people might know from my daily show. He joins us every Friday with the Football Friday with Fred, but I want to make sure and introduce everybody properly. He played safety for the University of Tennessee and won a championship with Eric in 1998. So, Fred, let me start with you. You guys on the field together, how does that bond form and how strong is it in the years after and now a quarter of a century after?
It's that bond of, what you expect out of your teammate and your friend. You expect excellence. And that was one thing that we breeded, every day in practice, every day in the weight room. You come and you give it your all. And if somebody calls you out, you don't have a problem with it. You just take it. Because if somebody called you out, obviously they saw something that everybody else may not have saw. And it pertains to you, and that means you should definitely be okay with it. And if you got mad with them or whatever, you got 11 guys in that locker room, probably more than that, that's going to be upset with you. Because that was our rule. No superstars. And if one guy mess up and he sees you mess up and says that you messed up, and guess what? We're all on his side because he's not going to call you out like that if it's not that. And the other part of it is, me and Eric, we started out on kickoff teams together, special teams together, going down, and we got a little side bet talking about who's going to make the tackle, and that's what we try to do every time.
That's back in those.
Oh yeah, that's when you got a chance to go down. We had to go down on kickoff team, and we had to make some plays, man. And that was the only way to get on the football field back in the day. Go make some plays on special teams, and then show them that you could play. And me and Eric, if it wasn't me making the tackle, it was Eric making the tackle every time.
Besides that one game in South Carolina when they had all them offensive linemen back there in the wedge. So I looked over one time and Fred was over there in the hedges.
Nah, that was Mickey. Nah, that was Mickey.
We get to the sideline and coach talking about, so who gonna bust that wedge? When me and Fred didn't look at each other and say, "Yep," nobody did.
And You're referring to Mickey Allen, a defense back on that team.
Yeah. I called him out just then. Yeah, I sure did.
We'll give him a chance at some point to defend himself. But yeah, it is funny how those bonds start early on. You guys, did you keep track of who made the most tackles on special teams, Eric? How competitive was that?
It was very competitive. We had bets, in the locker room and film, and we always, coach would credit one of us with a tackle, and then somebody would come back like, "No, that was me." And we also had this thing called a JOP. That means you jumped on the pile. So a lot of times, if you thought you made a tackle, a coach may give you a JOP and say, "No, you just jumped on the pile."
Jumped on the pile. That was it.
I don't even think that's within the rules anymore, but it does in a way speak, Fred, to the physicality you guys played with. You really loved contact, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. And then we talk about going down. Myself and Eric, we were at the 3 and the 4 position. And then with us being at 3 and 4 on the kickoff team, meaning like from the sideline, that's in the middle of it. And they're kicking the ball right down our hash. And man, we got to go make some plays. First of all, though, you can't block both of us. And you can't double team both of us, because if you double team one, the other one's definitely going to make the tackle. So you got to try to figure out what you're going to do with these two guys, and we're just running whatever we want to run. So it gave us also, when we got a chance to play defense, with him being a linebacker, the strong side, and I'm the strong side safety.
Go ahead.
My bad. On the strong side safety and the linebacker, we're always on the same side almost every time. But we had already communicated during football games, as young guys coming out on kickoff team. So when they got the defense, we already knew each other like the back of our head. I knew if he went one way, I got to go the other way, even if that's not what the defense called for. So it gave us an opportunity to say, "Hey, man, if I see this, I'm going here. Hey, man, I see this, and I'm just going to take your spot." That's it. So it made it easy for us to be able to play the game and sometimes exchange responsibilities.
Yeah.
So you guys are both on the – go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
No, I was just saying we just had that trust factor, and we spent so much time together off the field, with building trust and holding each other accountable. When we were on the field, we communicated a lot, but sometimes we could just look at each other and tell, what each other was going to do.
Yep.
So I'm curious from a football perspective, then I want to get to some of the special moments that you guys had during that season and after. But Fred, as a strong safety and Eric's a strong side backer, I mean, how much do you read off him or what he does? How much does it determine what you do on a play, you did on a play?
I mean, we did a lot of things the same and different, like if the guard pulls and he got to spill it, I'm the guy who's got to spill it too, the defensive end and myself. But if it's a play where he's got to get outside contain, I got to go fit inside where he was. It's just, we played off each other. The strong side linebacker and the strong side safety, if they're not communicating and not in sync together, it's going to be a bad day on that side, bad day. If you don't know how to communicate with your strong side linebacker as a safety, hey, man, it's going to be a long day for us.
And we had some plays. What's funny is we had some blitzes, because I was the Sam linebacker and I was the cover guy. But we had some zone blitzes back then where, I could either check myself to go or I could check for Fred to go. Mm-hmm. And sometimes me and him would look at each other and argue about, no, let me go. No, let me go. Because I didn't want to be in coverage. I wanted a couple of sacks in the game too. So if you go back and you look at the Florida game, I think Fred gets a sack during that game, but that was actually supposed to have been my sack because I was supposed to go. But somehow he conned me into letting him go on the blitz.
You lined up outside, let me line up inside. Because here's the other part of that. When we did that against Florida, that was the first time we did it like that. I usually lined up outside, and you usually lined up inside. When you line up outside, it made it for me to be able to go on that blitz. But here's the other part. Florida or nobody else had ever even seen it.
Yeah.
So they don't know what I'm doing. They have no idea why the safety's inside. They think they're gonna beat us on the route now because I'm inside on the tight end. inside of Eric. If I'm Florida or any team and we line up like that, I'm running the ball directly at us. But Florida they weren't running the ball, they were gonna throw it. So it just gave us a free lane to rush. I appreciate the 2 sacks, Emo. Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
That Florida game obviously set the tone for the season. It set the tone for a lot of seasons in the 90s. I was at that game, and it just was phenomenal. There was this kind of sense of disbelief that you guys got the monkey off your back. Eric, what are some of your strongest memories about that game other than Fred stealing sacks from you?
Oh, God. Well, one is, leading up to the game, I got hurt, Thursday in practice.
Yep.
I had a real bad ankle sprain. I stepped on we're doing pass scaling, and I stepped on the back of Jermaine Copeland's heel. Rolled my ankle. So actually I wasn't even supposed to play in the game. So they came up with a system where I had to spend the night in the training room on Thursday night. So I spent the night, me and one of our trainers named Eddie Lovin, thank him to this day for getting me ready.
Lovin.
But we did every hour on the hour of nonstop treatment Thursday night. Got up, Friday morning. Can I say I didn't go to class Friday?
I think that's
okay. I mean,
it's okay.
The statute of limitations are gone on that now,
Yeah, I didn't go to class on Friday.
Even I don't think I went to class that Friday either, but I'm just saying.
I spent all of Friday also in and out of the training room. I was still on crutches. I was actually still on crutches leading up to pregame, of that Saturday. So we went out. I was heavily taped. I did some running around, so my adrenaline had kicked in by then. So I was able to go out and give it a go. I wasn't 100%, but still was able to, make the right calls, get everybody lined up. Because that's one of the things that the soundbacker does. He has to get the call and make all the calls and get everybody lined up on the defense.
Except for that one time when they let Dominique Stevenson call the huddle.
So, tell me about that. So Stevenson calls a huddle. What's going on with that?
No.
Well, it wasn't that he couldn't call the huddle. It was just that he said everything really fast. So we're, leading up to that game, I said, he was the backup. So I said, all right, Dominique, you call the huddle this time. That lasted about 2 plays before Sean Ellis and Ray Knox said, hey, you get him out of here.
And we, the DBs, we were like, hey, coach, we don't even want to go back in the huddle after that. Just give us our own call over here.
Yeah.
That group of linebackers that you played behind, Fred, just with Eric and the group that you had, and Al and Raynock, I mean, man, what was it like playing behind that group? They're pretty darn good there.
I'll tell you one thing, you had to fight to get tackles because they were coming. I mean, and not to mention our defensive line as well. I mean, you had to really go out and want to make tackles because if you didn't, you weren't going to make none. That's serious because our defensive line, them guys were trying to get to the ball. Our linebackers, they were all trying to get to the ball. You notice we didn't have teammates that had 100 and something tackles.
Yeah.
How you going to have 100 and something tackles and everybody want to get to the ball?
Yeah.
That don't make sense to me. I mean, I've seen guys have not to throw no shade or nothing like that, but I've seen 1 or 2 guys since us, Emo, have 100 tackles at UT. And people were like, man, he's balling. I'm like, no. That means his teammates ain't doing nothing.
That means they on the field too much.
They're on the field way too much.
Way too much.
And he's saving tackles. He's saving touchdowns on every tackle. That means nobody's doing anything up front. If you play on a team like our team, I don't think nobody had over like 60, maybe no more than 70 tackles. It wasn't possible.
I think
we were fighting over those tackles.
Yeah, we were all in the 80s. We had, I think,
yep.
I think Ray 89, Al 85, and I was like 79, 80, somewhere in there. We were all,
And I was 72, 70, 67, somewhere around there. I was 4th on the team behind those dudes, which made it, man, it was amazing.
Yeah, and Eric, I wouldn't ask you about that week leading up. Again, this has been 25 years ago, so I want to give people some background. Florida had done really well in that series, and the season before, 97, I think that a lot of people picked Tennessee because of a guy named Peyton Manning, who's gone on to do okay. But Eric, leading up to that 98 team, that 98 Florida game, I don't know that a lot of people were picking you because Peyton wasn't there. What was the collective mindset of the team heading into that game?
Well, you really have to go back to our summer workouts and what we done in the summer and holding each other accountable, doing a lot of things on our own when the coaches weren't watching, spending a lot of time off the field with each other. So it started then. We were bigger, we were stronger, and we were definitely faster. You got to realize this: our linebacking core, were just as fast as our DBs. And anytime that we ran our 110s or we ran with the DBs. And some of our D linemen were just as fast as our linebackers and DBs also. These guys could, when you talk about Sean Ellis and Billy Ratliff, these guys could run.
Darwin Walker could run.
Yeah, and Darwin. So, I think it all started then. And we knew that we had a great offensive line, some great running backs and receivers. We had to protect T and not give him, too much, not give him too much on his plate. And then, let our defense be the guys who led the team.
And what was our motto, Emo? If you can't score, you can't what?
You can't win.
Simple as that. I think you're being a little bit nice calling those because I've talked to Fred about those summer workouts. Those were summer practices. I want to talk about how physical that was when it takes 30
with no pads on.
No pads. Y'all are just beating the out of each other. I mean, I guess we can say that on YouTube, but let's try not to. But let's take a 30-second break to tell you about Tennessee Cider Company and then why those summer workouts were more like fall camp than they were summer workouts. 30 seconds, and we're back with Celebrate 98, a presentation of Tennessee Cider Company and Off the Hook Sports.
Here, guys, is our Red Apple. This is by far and away the most traditional cider that we have to offer here at TCC. It's got a full flavor to it, a lot of backbone. This is your steak and potatoes of cider, if you will. It's everything you want from top to bottom, something you can kick back, relax, have a glass of, and really feel accomplished. Just a wonderful product through and through.
So, guys, we're with Eric Westmoreland and Fred White, Celebrate 98. A lot of guys like me think summer workouts are just 7-on-7, running around, but they weren't like that in the late 90s, especially 98. Eric, they were almost full-blown practices, according to Fred, just without pads.
Yeah, so what would happen is we would have morning workouts. You'd have 2 or 3 different times that you could work out. You can work out at 6, I think 9 and 1 o'clock. But two days during the week, we would meet up at 6, I think Tuesdays and Thursdays, and have, 7-on-7, 1-on-1s. And then at the end, we would have a full team script who, the defensive guys, we would call our plays, and then the quarterbacks would call the offensive plays. So we went at it. We went at it, no pads. It was physical, a lot of hand usage. But that is what got us ready for the season, because no coaches could be out there. So right. we had to police all of that ourselves.
Well, that's what I was going to ask Fred. Fred, who are some of the key leaders to police that? Because I know that you want to be really, really physical. You also don't want to hurt each other, but you want to be intense. I mean, who are some of the leaders that in 98 during that summer helped you get to that point to be ready for fall camp?
I think we all were. And I say that in the, we did, everybody knows who our overall leader was, yes. But as a position guy, if your DBs weren't there, the main Al and D Good and all hey man, where's your boy? Where is he at? If your receiver wasn't there, why is he not here? We put it on the whole group. Y'all need to go get him and bring him here and make him come practice with us. If he's not playing with us and practice with us, don't worry, he's not going to play much on the football field.
Right.
And that's how I think. I mean, you got to come work with us. We don't want you to show up and do. No, you need to come work with us because we're trying to build something. We're trying to do something. This is what our standard is. But also with that, I remember when we first got started, it was just DBs and skill position guys. Then you started seeing the offensive linemen and defensive linemen. They're over there doing one-on-ones with no pads on, and it's going full like they got pads on. Mm-hmm. So when we did team drill, we was already doing a real practice, like literally with no pads on and no coaches. And that was determination too, because we got our butt was against Nebraska, and they showed us it was a different level of football to play. And that without losing to them in the bowl game, man, I don't think we win a 98 national championship team. And I think that game and the physicality they came with showed us that, hey, man, we might be fast, but we got to be as physical as we possibly can be as well. Right. So you watch the whole football team go after it, and that was embarrassing, getting beat by Nebraska like that, and we were a better football team than that. So when we came back, if you came to practice and played, if you came in the weight room and started playing, hey, man, you're going to cause some issues because somebody going to get in your butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there, Eric, for those that don't remember that, again, because it's been 25 years, the year before, Nebraska did handle you guys pretty well in the Fiesta Bowl. They had more to play for, obviously, of a potential national championship on the line. How quickly did you guys, reset and come back and be ready for the 98 year after the 97 season was complete?
When we started back school, so that first week of January, everybody was back in the weight room. Everybody had a goal to get bigger, stronger, and faster. And I think a lot of our guys met those goals. We had a lot of guys PR on a lot of different lifts, whether it was bench, squat, power clean. We had a lot of guys, break some records with their 40-yard dash. So that was, and it was a competition too. So it wasn't like we were individuals going out there, trying to do all of this. We held each other accountable, and it was a competition about, okay, I can power clean this much, or I'm faster than you. So, every day you had to show up and you had to work for what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And PR, for those that don't know, means personal record. We do want people to be sure and click like and subscribe to Celebrate 98, as we're going to visit with countless players and coaches throughout this series. And Fred White's the guy who put it all together, and we greatly appreciate that. And Eric, one of the things that Fred told me, I guess about 5 years ago or so, that to me was just so interesting from a team dynamic standpoint, is you guys were a bunch of tattletales. If somebody was dogging it, you went and told the coaches.
No,
you went and said that guy's not ready to play.
We didn't have to tell the coaches. We tell our teammates he's not playing with us. Then we tell the coaches, "Hey man, get him off our field." Plain and simple. Just get that man. Get him off my field. He ain't ready.
I wouldn't say it was tattletelling. I would just say if you wasn't living up to par and not doing what you're supposed to do, we would just kindly, say you're not out here with us. And it wasn't anything personal to anybody.
Right.
It was, we had a goal set. And you can't reach that goal if you have people that are not all in on the boat with you. So we made sure that everybody who got on that boat was on that boat for the right reason.
Absolutely. You're not here just to be on the field with us and you get the credit and you didn't do nothing. You come out here and do something.
Listen, I've been cussed out, blessed out by a few of my teammates also.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Missing a tackle and I'm like, well, I thought I had him, and I've been cussed out for calling the play wrong. The D-line looking at me, cussing me out because I didn't get them lined up right. Now they the tattletales.
Yeah, they gonna tell coach everything.
When you do interview, every D-line that you do it, they all the tattletales. Because anytime they don't get the right call, it's Westmoreland's fault.
Mm-hmm. They could have just went in the wrong gap.
They were tired.
Brad, can you tell the story about when you let up a little bit and the guy that I think called people out as much as anybody went by the name of Al Wilson? Maybe some people have heard about him. He got on you. I believe it was during a practice. You were maybe lagging a little bit.
Oh, no, this was in the Florida game.
Oh, was it in the game?
In the Florida game.
Okay,
in the Florida game.
Take me back to September.
Travis McGrill catches the ball on the sideline, and Steve Johnson is running him out of bounds. He's pushing him out. He's running with him and pushing him out of bounds. And literally, I mean, I'm coming, but I slowed down before I got there. And he ran by me. And as he was running by me, he grabbed me by the back of my jersey and was pushing me with him all the way to the sideline. And when we get to the sideline, he said, "Don't you ever let me beat your blankety, blankety, blank to the sideline again."
Did Al ever get in your face, Eric?
You got to realize this. We were in the same room every day, meetings. So we have a different bond. Me, Al, and Ray have a different bond than a lot of the other guys because we're in that room every day. I think Al and Ray argued a little bit more than me, Al, and Ray did. Because Ray was the type that he didn't want you to talk to him. He just wanted to go out there and play ball. So we had to, we kind of had to make sure that he was lined up right. He knew what blitzes he had and things like that. So that was kind of the back and forth with all three of us. But of course, we all, went at it at some point. With me being the signal caller and making sure everybody has to get lined up right. I had to be on my P's and Q's, and, I've messed up plenty of times and heard it from many people on the defense.
And when you get some of the DBs, they'll tell you how many times we used to get cussed out. Don't let them catch a 5-yard curl or a 3-yard out. Hey, man, listen, bang, what y'all doing? Hey, man, somebody going to fight you. Somebody going to knock you out when you get to the sideline. You let him catch a 5-yard pass. Hey, man.
5 yards.
That's right. So I'm both of you guys. Let me start with Eric since he's our special guest. When that game is over, fans charge the field. And for those that don't remember, the Tennessee-Florida game was essentially a playoff game in September. The loser had very little chance to make it to the SEC championship game or even further into a national title game, which you guys got to and won. How quickly do you think, wow, just beat Florida, this could be a monstrously special season? Eric, how quick?
I think it even started before that, Right. I think everybody knew we could win that game. But after winning that game, we had this thing. I don't know if Fred remembers. We had these cliches. Was the energy stick or
the synergy stick?
The synergy stick. Yeah. We had this thing. Yeah, I'll let somebody else talk about that. We had this thing called the synergy stick. And we had every team, lined up who we were playing next. So we took it one game at a time, step by step, one game at a time. But we knew what was ahead of us. We just had to stay focused on what we were doing.
Yeah.
And we also knew if we beat Florida, we were the top 2 teams in the SEC at that point. That was the only team that we hadn't beaten. Everybody else we had beat. So it was, if you beat Florida, hey man, we're gonna run the house with the rest of these dudes. Now we know they're gonna be coming after us, but that's the main thing. We're trying to get them off the board.
I'm gonna reverse it just a little bit if you don't care. Syracuse, did anybody among you guys not cramp up because it was like 118 degrees with 98% humidity?
Okay,
a place called the Carrier Dome.
Okay, that is one of the times where I got blessed out. So Ray cramps up first. Then Al cramps up. Then I cramp up. So I go in the locker room. We're all in there getting IVs, and And then I think everybody comes in and then, okay, Dominique has to call the huddle.
Mm-hmm.
So they had Dominique, I think maybe Sean Johnson, and maybe Austin Kemp or Chris Ramsher were in at linebacker.
Mm-hmm. Now, Chris wasn't in yet.
No.
I'll tell you who was in. I know who was in because I called timeout. I sure the hell did.
Yeah, Fred's talking about this before you called.
Okay, Gerard.
Yeah, hold on, before you finish, let me tell you who was at D tackle. Ed Kendrick and Ed Butler. And I looked at the coaches and I was like, nope.
So
I called timeout.
They come in the lock. We're getting IVs in the locker room, and that's where the whole D line comes straight to the IV tables and just cuss all us out. All the linebackers, because we're cramping up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it was one of those things. Like, what can we do? We cramping up.
Yeah. So, Fred, did you cramp up in that game too? Didn't you tell me that everybody had an IV at halftime?
Everybody. I didn't have one at halftime. I had one at the end of the game. I was going in as Jeff Hall was getting ready to kick the field goal. And I stopped and was like, you know what? I'm going to see this field goal before I go in here. I need to know we won before I go in this locker room. So I wouldn't go in there until he kicked the kick. But as soon as he kicked it and I knew it was good, I walked on in and got my IV. But here's the thing. All those defensive linemen were talking trash. And then we get in the third quarter and I get in the game and it's those people that I'm talking about in front of me and it's 3rd and 7. And I'm like, nah, this ain't going to work, coach.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this time out.
What did John Chavis say about you calling a timeout because you didn't like who was in front of you?
Hey, listen, when I got to the sideline, they was like, why'd you call a timeout? I said, hey, man, look, I didn't go to the coaches. I went straight to my teammates. Hey, man, y'all don't get y'all ass in this game, I don't know what y'all doing. What y'all thinking? Hey, man, get in here. I need some help.
So you guys in September beat what I think was an underrated Syracuse team, and Fred's admitted that they maybe were a little surprising. They were in the Big East, and you beat Florida, and then you beat Houston. Now I definitely want to get to the Arkansas game, but in those following weeks, you handle Georgia, handle Alabama, handle South Carolina, then UAB. Those games weren't close. That streak, Eric, how sky high were you guys? Because you were playing lights out.
Well, each week when we watch film, we knew what we were good at on defense, and that was bringing pressure. We knew that we had guys on the back end, given time that they could cover. We had a free safety in Deion Grant that could go get any ball in the middle of the field, and we had a strong safety in Fred that was going to punish you coming across the middle. So that was our game plan, especially against Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina. I mean, if you go back and look at those films, especially that Georgia game, we had Quincy Carter running for his life the whole game. We threw every blitz at those teams during that stretch.
Yeah, and
if you can't block us, look out. We coming all night. We coming.
And you guys weren't just tackling people; you were smashing people.
Yeah, that's another thing too, because I think nowadays half of our defense would be on the sideline, with all them penalties.
Yeah, Fred wouldn't have made it through the first defensive drive.
There's a few on our team that wouldn't have made it through the first defensive drive.
It's so neat to me the fact that you had Deion and Fred that were so different and so opposite, that Fred was that guy in the box punisher and Deion was able to be that guy. We know the Florida amazing one-handed catch. How special was it to not only know that your safety position, you had great help in the run, Eric, but you also had a guy that's not going to get beat over the top?
Yeah, it's one of those things where anytime we blitzed, you had to get home. You had to give those guys time to get in their spots and be where they're supposed to be, because we did a lot of disguising and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I talked about earlier about me and Fred. Sometimes we would switch responsibilities, depending on if we were in a fire zone or a man-to-man blitz. So, those type of things allowed us to be really creative with the guys that we had on our defensive front and on the back end.
So we're going to continue to talk to 98 players, and we're so excited. 25 years celebrate 98. Be sure and hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, you need to do that because we're going to have more of the players as we go through the year. It wouldn't be possible without Tennessee Cider Company, the first cidery to set up shop in Gatlinburg, surrounded by the mountains that hold and defend a spirit far better than moonshine. Got to taste it. It's absolutely unbelievable. Their hard ciders are incredible. So I want to talk about that Arkansas game. That was kind of a big deal. Some guy named Clint Sterner really got put in a bad position there, maybe by Billy Riley. We'll take a 30-second break. It's brought to you by Tennessee Cider Company, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Blueberry cider. This is the black sheep of the family. As you can tell by the color, blueberry is what it's all about. Super crisp, refreshing. This cider is a little different in the fact that it's tart. Tastes like a handful of fresh picked mountain blueberries, almost as rejuvenating as diving in the creek on a 90-degree day in August.
All right, so we're with Fred White, Celebrate 98, brought to you by Tennessee Cider Company. We've got Eric Westmoreland, one of the handful of outstanding linebackers on that football team that won a national title, first BCS national title for the record, 13-0. Eric, the Arkansas game, that's the other one that I think stands out in a lot of people's minds. For those that don't remember, Arkansas potentially, if they beat you guys in Neyland Stadium, could also play for a national title. It was really up here for Arkansas, and they had the ball late and looked like they were going to be able to either run out the clock or score. And then this guy named Billy Ratliff makes an incredible play. Were you on the field during that play when he broke through? Brandon Burlsworth, who was an All-American, pushed him back and then created the fumble that led to your all's incredible comeback. What do you remember about that play?
Oh man, that play was. First, you got to understand that those were two teams who were very similar, Arkansas and Tennessee. They had a real good defense. We had a good defense. They like to run the ball and play action pass, and we like to do the same thing. So the two teams were very similar. That was a very physical game.
They were physical
the whole night. And I remember, coming off, going back on the field, after the incomplete pass, and Billy Ratliff yelling at everybody, keep your helmets on. We're gonna get the ball back. And Billy was my roommate, so I turned the side eye at Billy like, what's he talking about? But right. That's the belief in our team. So that particular play, Billy was lined up on Brandon Burlsworth, who's, was one of the greatest offensive linemen to me in college football history. And that whole game, and Billy will tell you this, that whole game, Burlsworth whooped every D lineman on our team. They kept coming to the sideline and say, hey, switch with me. And I remember Darwin saying, I don't want to line up on him this time. But
he was whooping their butts.
Yeah, but that particular play, Billy said, all right, I got him. And if you go back, I know there's a side view somewhere, and watch the get off that Billy had on that play, and it pushed Burlsworth back. And as Sterner was coming out, you can see him trip. You can say hindsight 2020. I don't know why he just didn't fall on the ball, but it's almost like he tried to brace himself to continue to run the play and just lost the ball.
I blame it on their coach, Houston Nutt. When they called a timeout, and I remember myself and Dwayne Goodrich and Deion Grant, we didn't go to our sideline. We stayed on the field, staring at them in their group, and we're screaming at their coaches, I bet you won't throw the ball. And we're not thinking they're not gonna throw the ball. First of all, we know that, right? It was a play action pass. It was a bootleg.
Yeah, it was a boot. It was a boot.
With an option to run and pass. So literally, as soon as I saw the ball snap and saw him roll, I was thinking to myself, he's about to get sacked because we're running bare. We're running bare, and Corey Terry is coming straight up football. He's going to run right into Corey Terry. Game over. We about to get the sack, get the ball back. I mean, but for him to fumble, it made it even better.
Right.
Guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but Billy wasn't even supposed to be in the game, right? Didn't Jeff Coleman come out and Billy went in, or am I remembering that correctly? You tell me.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. I don't know what the substitution pattern was. And I know Al wasn't in the game because Al pulled his groin on the block field goal.
Yep. So then you guys after Arkansas, you win that game 28-24. And for those that don't remember, once Tennessee got the ball back, it was Travis Henry, and I think it was 8 straight plays to win 28-24. You beat Kentucky. You guys always beat Kentucky. You hammered Vanderbilt. You always hammer Vanderbilt. And then the SEC championship game against Mississippi State ended up being, I think, a little bit closer than maybe some people thought. You guys had won an SEC title the year before. Eric, why was State able to hang tight? Were they that good or something else?
I think offensively they done some misdirection stuff that we didn't see. Some split zone, which caught us off guard. Defensively, they ran a 3-3 stack with their D coordinator Jolie Dunn, and it's created to cause havoc, to bring pressure, to confuse the offensive line, and I think it took us a half just to get settled down and to figure out what they were doing on defense.
They had some special talent on defense too.
Yeah, they had some NFL guys, some high draft picks on that defense also.
So, Fred, you guys win the SEC title. There are a couple of things that fall your way on a Saturday with Kansas State, UCLA losing, if I remember correctly. I think you guys would have been in the national title game anyway, but it definitely cleared the way. And then you've got a month to prepare for Florida State. And Florida State was definitely a national power at the time. And Tennessee hadn't won a championship in 47 years. A lot of people thought Florida State's just going to win because they've been better recently. What was going through your mind as you guys were preparing for Florida State?
My mind?
Yes, your mind. Let's start with you, and then I'm going to go to Eric.
We're going to whoop these boys' butt. Because they don't think we're good. Everybody was picking us to lose. That's the one thing you couldn't do with our squad. Every time you pick us to lose, or you going to pick us to lose, you literally going to pick us to lose. I think nobody thought we were going to win except for the people in the state of Tennessee. And I just remember going through the practices and watching and just understanding, they were talented. We watched them on film. We saw them, but they hadn't played nobody like us. They didn't know how fast we were on defense. And I'm going to say this right now on the first show. I put our defensive speed up against any team that's ever come through Tennessee, including now. Top to bottom speed from defensive end, D tackle, linebackers, and defensive backs. I put our numbers up 40 times against anybody. We were one of the fastest teams to ever play. We were before our time, in my opinion. So when we were going up against Florida State, they thought we were just big and slow. They didn't know we were as fast as we were. They didn't know we were as powerful as we were. They had no clue.
Everybody picked against you guys, Eric. And I remember, do you remember the big, huge satellite dishes where you could get the feed? And so you could get the TV feed and you could hear the commentators talk during the break, which is so weird. And Keith Jackson, when you guys got up early, said, I don't care what happens, Florida State will come back and win. They'll beat the Vols. And he said that. He didn't know that it was out there for everybody to hear. But it was like the whole nation thought that you guys weren't even on their level. Did you feel that going into the game?
Well, I didn't feel it, and I don't think any of our teammates felt it.
Right.
I think –
not that you felt it, but that other people felt it. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of other people that felt that, but I know in house we didn't feel that. Watching their film, we knew they couldn't block us up front.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think what helped them, the game even being that close, was their quarterback, Marcus Outson. I think, and a lot of people say if Winky would have played, they would have beat y'all. Here's the thing. Winky couldn't run.
And he was going to need to be able to run.
He was a sitting duck.
He was going to get killed.
Their offensive line could not block us.
No.
So the only thing that helped them out was Outson was able to get away on a few runs that kept their drives alive.
And we still sacked them 6 times.
We still sacked them 6 times.
If Winky had been in the game, we would have probably broke the record for sacks in the game.
That's how much pressure we brought that day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unless you know how scared we were of them. We blitzed the crap out of them. We didn't care about their players on the outside. They couldn't block us.
We played Peter Work man-to-man the whole night.
The whole night.
Dwayne.
No
right?
zone. No zone, no double coverage. Man-to-man.
Man-to-man.
You talk about the Winky thing, and a lot of people will say, and this makes Fred mad because I accidentally said it around him when I was first getting to know him, said, you guys got kind of lucky on some breaks that year. Maybe Florida had some many turnovers and Winky didn't play and we could go all this blah, blah, blah. And you had the Sterner play, but aren't those just breaks in a season?
Well, let's go back in the last 5 or 6 years. Every national champion that has won in the last 5 or 6 years, there's a game or 2 that they were supposed to lose.
And then they won.
You can go season to season. There's a game or 2 in the last 5 or 6 years of every college national champion that they were supposed to lose.
You look at the Georgia team last year, one of the best teams ever assembled, if you ask me. All that talent, they should have lost to Ohio State.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You're absolutely right. You guys have continued the bond, and there was a special moment. This goes way beyond football, and I want to get to that about how Eric was there when Fred needed him, and that's going to be a continued theme throughout this Celebrate 98 series. Please hit that like button, hit subscribe, because we're going to talk to countless players. We're going to take one more 30-second break brought to you by Tennessee Cider Company. And then when Fred needed a little help, as we all do, God knows I have over the years, Eric was there. And it is a heart-wrenching story. Give us 30 seconds. Brought to you by Tennessee Cider Company.
Today with our Golden Apple. Golden Apple is what we're known for. This is kind of what got the party started for us when we opened. This is the base for all of our cider flavors. Very light, very crisp. What I love the most about our Golden Apple is just the all-day drinkability. If you're someone that doesn't enjoy cold beer and you don't want to have a mixed drink or a glass of wine, hey, this is the perfect cider for you. You can drink it from daylight till dark or from dark till daylight, whatever floats your boat.
So somehow I talked Fred White into doing radio with me back in the late, it would have been, I guess it would have been the late 2000s. And he was just incredible. I thought he'd be kind of good. And he was just like through the roof good. And we were blown away. And I work for the worst media company ever. I took a job from them called, it's got 4 letters and it's owned by Disney. I'll let you guess who it is. But anyway, and Fred, that time we got separated. I'd love to go back and change leaving for that company, but I can't. But you continued doing radio, and it was a struggle. It's not like today where we have YouTube and all these different podcast platforms for distribution. You really had to be on a radio station that was kind of that was entrenched in the community to get a reaction for your advertisers, and there were tough times for you in radio. Can you take me back there?
So I'm going to be as honest as I can be when I say this, by the way. When I started doing radio with you guys, I didn't do it because I was excited about doing radio and wanted to be a radio personality. I needed the extra $100 a week. So I was doing it as a means to an end, first of all. But then I kind of fell in love with it and then realized, maybe this might be a good idea, to continue doing this. But yeah, went out on my own, and when you left, Dave, they kind of did away with our show. So Then I pitched the show for myself. And I remember someone vividly saying to me, no one wants to hear you on the radio by yourself. I'm not going to say who said it, but you already know who our station owner was and station manager was at that time. So that's the person who said it. And
okay.
I'm one of those guys, and Eric can tell you, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do everything I can to prove it that I can. Right. So at that same time period, I was working at Verizon Wireless, and I just got fired. I'm going to say it like it is. And I decided, take the money you saved and start your radio show. So I started the show. I didn't have not one advertiser. That was the one thing they never taught me, Emo. I didn't know how to go out and get advertisers. Right. So I started with my own money, which is not a great idea, fellas, but I wouldn't change it for the world because I felt like it changed my life forever. And I remember being in the studio, and it was, I guess, my third or fourth month, and I'm sitting there like, I need to get some advertisers because I got to pay rent or pay the airtime. And I just said, you know what? I'm not going to tuck my tail. So instead of paying this rent, I'm going to pay this airtime and bet on myself. So I paid the airtime, and sure enough, I got evicted from my place. And I was in the studio. But I look at it like it was a trial, and I'm happy about it now because when I was going through it, it was tough. But man, I got a chance to be at the studio all day. I really focused on the craft at that moment, trying to figure out information and those type of things. And then I would go to sports bars and just sit there all day and watch video on ESPN and everything, so and watch all the games and those type of things. I didn't have nowhere to stay. How else am I going to watch the games, right? So one time I was in the studio, and I guess I didn't know they were getting ready to sell the studio, but the guys walked in, and it's like 9, 10 o'clock at night. They're coming to do inventory and everything. I'm in there asleep. I told them I fell asleep at doing work or whatever, which I was. I wasn't just doing nothing. And then that night, maybe not that night, but a few nights, I had went out and slept in my car, in the parking lot somewhere or whatever, just trying to figure out what my next move was, how am I going to keep this show going, those type of things. And I was down the street from Eric Westmoreland's house. And one of our old team, well, he wasn't even my teammate, but Corey Larkin knocked on my window while I was sleeping in that car. I'll never forget it because he's looking at me like, hey, man, what are you doing? Why you sleep right here? I was like, man, I don't have nowhere to go. And the look he gave me, he was like, dude, call Eric. He's at the house right now. Call him right now. So I called him on the phone, and I asked him, man, what's going on? He said, man, I don't have nowhere to go, bro. I don't have nowhere to live. He was like, man, come to the house. What are you doing? So I get to his house, and he tells me, you can stay here. I had to go, and I needed it. I didn't have a place to stay. And it was a struggle, man, trying to figure out where I'm going to go shower the next day and, those type of things. It was what it was. And having a place to stay and put a roof over my head gave me that extra month or so to be able to find some advertising and keep the show going. But that bond was even bigger than that because when I was in Jacksonville, I got signed by Jacksonville. Eric was there, and then later on, John Henderson was drafted as well. We're all there together, and of course, Eric opened up his place and let me sleep there. I mean, I slept on the couch at Emo crib while I was working out for the Jaguars trying to make the squad. You know what I mean? But for me, it was familiarity. It's my teammate, it's my brother, and he doing everything he can to make sure he look out for me and show me love, and he did. And even when I didn't have money back then and y'all were going somewhere or going out of town, it's like, hey, man, come on, let's go. And it was just that bond is something that will never be broken. I tell people this all the time. My teammates, I love them. But there's some that I have a deeper bond with because of some of the things we actually went through together. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Like, Eric knows this too. Every time he came to Knoxville and after he moved from Knoxville, if he needed a place to stay in Knoxville, he ought to know he got a key. come and go as you please, brother, because he already know that. And that's that one thing that people don't understand. Like in life, your teammates sometimes become. It ain't just a teammate no more. It's a brother. That's my brother. That's my family. That's that's just as good as blood. You know what I mean? So it's that bond will never go away. And I'm happy that he was there to help me. And I know we've all been there to help each other. I've helped some teammates myself, but I pass that along all the time because I know the teammates that have helped me and looked out for me.
Eric, and based off what Fred said, you didn't even blink, man. It was like there's no question. Just like a real brother. Yeah. Just come on.
Man, it was funny because I was on the back end of my career in the NFL. So I was actually back and forth from Cleveland, Ohio with the Browns. It was the offseason and all that stuff. And, I'm like, there's no question. I'm not going to leave my brother out there with no place to stay. So it wasn't even a thought. It was, hey man, come to the house. What's mine is yours. Stay here as long as you want to get back on your feet, and things like that. And, again, Fred just said, when I didn't live in Knoxville, I needed a place to stay. Just, instead of getting a hotel, I'm staying with him. I've stayed with David Martin. David Martin has two sons who travel, play AAU basketball. Anytime they have a tournament down here in Chattanooga, he calls me. He's like, hey, coming to Chattanooga, my boys have an AAU tournament. I say, hey, man, I tell them where the key is at. Come get the key. Go make yourself at home. So there's a lot of guys on that team that stay in a lot of different states that, when we travel, a lot of times we don't have to get hotel rooms. We call, Leonard is in Jeff Coleman. They're in Charlotte. A lot of guys are in Atlanta. There's some guys in Florida. So Nashville. So that bond is true when we say, our houses and all of our families are open to our brothers when they come in town. That's not something that we just say, hey, call me when you get in town. Because, well, one thing, they're going to call you when they get in town.
Yeah. And if you don't call them when you came in town, be a little bit upset. Like, dude.
Yeah.
You mean tell me you was in Atlanta?
You was in Atlanta and you didn't call me? Yeah. So, exactly. And Fred knows this. That's family. Fred is family. When he was going through a tough time, what kind of person or teammate or family member would I be to not lend my hand to him or lend any help to him when I was in a position to give help?
You guys have both been around a lot of football teams. You still are, Eric, at Baylor. And you both played in the NFL and you've been a part of other teams in college, the 97, we'll go back 96 team. But why was the 98 team, it seems, so tight? Because I don't think every team's that tight a quarter of a century later. Was it winning, or was the bond before that resulted in the winning?
I think it was the bond before that resulted in the winning. Again, let's go back to the previous summers. I can say that, we would go out. Everybody would put in. This is when we was broke back then. Nobody got money back then.
We weren't getting NIL money back then, by the way.
Now Baylor kids are getting NIL money, probably.
No. Nobody was getting money back then. But we'd put in, everybody put in $10. We go
if you have store, 10 or whatever you have.
Get meat. We'd get hamburger buns. We just get a whole bunch of stuff, and we would just go cook out. And half the team would show up.
Exactly.
And we would do this almost every weekend.
Yeah. Because
Wow.
nobody had any money anyway. So okay, let's pull out what you got. You got $3, or you got 5, you got 10, okay, you got 12. We putting all this money together, put the money together. Let's go get some meat. We're gonna grill out. And everybody show up and we enjoy
Everybody show up.
ourselves. But I think that the struggle part of what we did in college is what made us closer because nobody had anything. We didn't have no money. And then everybody expected us not to be good because we just lost 16 seniors. So I think that even made it because we had a chip on our shoulder because it was like, hold on, they might have been the number 1 recruiting class when Peyton's class came in, but we were number 2. Eric Westmoreland, those guys were number 1. And then a year after that, they were number 1 again. So you mean to tell me because a few guys left, we can't play? So I think that gave an extra emphasis on it and made us work harder because we had something to prove. And it was our time, and that was the whole point. I remember the older guys telling us, hey man, when it's your time to play on the field, you don't let it drop off. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't be no drop off. It should get better, right? So it's your job also to teach the guy behind you. So if you don't teach that guy behind you, it's your fault too that they fell off. Mm-hmm. That was our job.
Fred, I have no idea, no doubt, that you're a survivor. I mean, you were going to make things work out, and you still will if something bad were to happen today or tomorrow. But you're just that type of guy. But at that particular time, when you were able to stay with Eric, when you were homeless, I mean, how huge was that? How big was that at that time?
It was amazing. It was huge because I didn't have to worry about where I was going to find a place to sleep. You know what I mean? I got to find
What's that like on a day-to-day basis when you're trying to do a show? Because it takes prep. I mean, don't just open the mic.
And let me say this too. I did have some other friends in the city that I could have possibly reached out to, but I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of embarrassed. And I was also trying to figure out what I could do for myself, and going into a new business, everyone telling you you're crazy anyway for doing what you did, using your own money, all these type of things, not knowing all the particulars. You know what? It was an opportunity for me to grow. And it was uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. But I will say, man, I found myself a lot being there because it was only me in that car and the man up there. So we had a lot of conversations. And I look at it now and say, man, if I didn't go through those things, will I be where I am now? I'm happy I went through those things because it made me grow in character and integrity and grow as a person, period. So I don't look at it like it was a bad thing. I think it was something that was necessary. I think the process of life, man, it is what it is. Sometimes you have good things happen. Sometimes you have bad things happen. But sometimes those things prepare you to the next step. And being able to have that part of my life back or having a place to stay gave me extra hours I can go and put in, and not have to worry about anything of where I'm going to stay, what parking lot I'm going to try to find today, or can I sleep in the studio today, or whatever. I knew I could leave there and go sleep somewhere and sleep in an actual bed. And that part of my day was over. You know what I mean? That part I'd have to worry about. So it made me better when it came to doing production for the show and learning what I need to learn, those type of things, because I didn't have to worry about that one aspect. So I'm definitely, it was amazing. That was great.
Yeah. Eric, anything you wanted to add to that? That's pretty touching.
Yeah, it is. I mean, sometimes I can get emotional with stories like that you hear from other people, that may have been homeless or going through some tough times. But it really hits home when it's somebody that's down on their luck, having some tough times and things like that. And as Fred said a minute ago, he said, yeah, there's some other friends that he probably could have called and things, but he felt embarrassed. And I think, when Corey knocked on his window, and Corey knows me too, because I think Corey was staying at my house.
Yeah, he was.
You had like an all SEC team in that.
Yeah, he was.
So I'm like, I know Corey is like, yeah, call Emo. He's not going to care, and he's not going to be judgmental about what you have going on. And I think again that's from my upbringing and my parents, my grandparents. That's all what they've taught me over the years is always be able to lend out a helping hand when somebody needs it. And Fred, like I said, he just needed somewhere to get back on his feet and get back to doing what he loved. And I was, I'm glad at that point in both of our lives that we were still close as former teammates and brothers, that I was able to just, be a stepping stool to where he can continue to get to where he wanted to be in life.
Well, Fred has also paid it forward, and we're going to talk about Dwayne Goodrich, who fell on hard times, and Fred paid it forward. And I'll be real frank with you, Fred, you paid it forward to me with this. I mean, this has been a passion of mine, and to celebrate you guys, and you're just an incredible dude, is all I know to tell you, and just an incredible team, not just because of the talent, but because of the bond, guys. I don't think we've left any stone unturned. Is there anything you guys would
I just want to say this, like he was talking about, I don't know of any state I've ever gone to and if there's a teammate there or somebody who played at UT around my time, if I call them and tell them I'm coming, 100% they're gonna make sure they see me. 100%. And the same thing in Atlanta. If you call and say, hey, such and such gonna be in Atlanta today, we are gonna catch you. We're gonna make sure we see you, put our eyes on you, because that's something that we didn't have. We had that back then. Yeah. We had that bond, and that bond is still there. I mean, one of the reasons why we started doing spring game stuff, man, was to get guys to come back and be around each other, because we don't get a chance to see each other like that as a group no more. So that's, going to football games and, spring game and stuff like that. That's what changes, we get to see that and we look forward to those things.
Yeah.
25 years, guys. It's hard to think that we're all in our mid-30s.
Hey, Dave, I'm still 39. I'm gonna claim that.
I was trying to hang on 29 there for a while. I don't grow my beard out because it's white. But you got a little white there, Fred.
Hey man, I still could be 39.
And I like emo going high and tight. Eric, I can't thank you enough.
Man, I appreciate you guys, man. And you guys Fred's gonna bring some great stories to this platform. There's a lot of great stories with a lot of different guys. I don't know who else y'all got in queued up next. But there's
I think everybody.
Oh, really?
Because kind of did this 4 years ago in local radio, which was on a station that won't be named. But Fred knows everybody.
Oh, he does. He does. He's got everybody number, and that's the thing too. Everybody's going to do it for Fred. Everybody's going to do it for Fred.
Why is that? Why is Fred the lightning rod, the center? Why is he that guy?
Okay, I'll go ahead and tell you. You know how on every team you got your leader. All right, Al was our vocal leader, and then you got the guys in between. They're like the younger brothers. Okay, that's everybody in between. Fred is the uncle that comes to the cookout that you see, is the uncle at all the cookouts, who always telling you what to do and what not to do. He's the uncle that everybody goes to for advice. That's Fred on the team.
And the guy you trust. That's the key.
And the guy you trust. And the guy you trust. So that's the dynamic. If you really look at the dynamics of our team, of course you had our leaders, then you had the guys that were in between, and then you had the veteran older statesman. Fred was that veteran older statesman who was like the uncle that everybody looked up to.
It's great.
He said that, and that's true. That's real. If anybody had a problem on the team and they were younger guys, they came to me. My whole job was to be as a big brother and the uncle factor. So make sure they understood what they could and what they couldn't do.
Right.
And then go talk to the coaches if they needed me to. And that was one thing. I ain't never been scared to talk to anybody. And I'm always, for one, you're on my team. You can't tell me that we're teammates and we're family and this guy got an issue and I can't come to you and talk to you about it for him. If you get mad with me for that, then you obviously don't need to be coaching. Right. Because that's what this is about. You know what I mean? It's that brotherhood. It's that bond. That's where it comes from. And it wasn't just me. It was a lot of guys doing the same. It's just, but he said the uncle. I'm still the uncle.
I know. Hey, but I didn't say the drunk uncle though.
No. Fred seems like the uncle that's looking at the grill and he's like, man, you turn that meat. And he's just looking at it. And he's just looking at it, and you know that he thinks that, but he doesn't say anything until it's turned.
But that's what I'm saying. You go get some good stories, man. And the one thing, Dave, you got to tell all you got. Tell them don't be lying. Don't be lying.
Don't tell them because somebody will come in and debunk
somebody
it
will
real
stretch
quick.
A story or two.
I'm for that. It's been 25 years. You guys deserve a little bit of stretching the truth.
They gonna do that,
guys. Both of you all have.
Let me say this one last thing, Dave.
Yes.
You talk about competition. We talked about me and Emo competing on, for tackles and everything. I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna be the end of it. Okay. If we were walking into a party or a club, you better hide your kids and hide your wife if you saw me and Eric Westmoreland together. Because we coming to get every pretty girl in the building.
Time out. Okay, so I'm going to be the last one to say something. You guys were having a get-together, and Fred said, I'm going to go hang out with the guys. And I said, that'd be cool. I'll bring my wife. And he goes, no, you don't want to do that. Exactly what he told me. That's exactly what he told me back in like 2008. And I was like, I didn't even ask back. I was like, I mean, go to take my wife there and my leave alone. I don't want to do that. It's exactly
don't do that, Dave. No, don't do that.
That's right.
You need to come by yourself.
By the way, Shanna loves you to death for the record. Yeah. All right, guys. I can't say thank you enough. Celebrate 98. You got to subscribe. We want you to share it. Tell your friends about it. We're going to talk to literally a couple dozen Vols on that team, coaches, players. It's really exciting. Thanks to Fred White and thanks to Tennessee Cider Company. They are phenomenal. We appreciate you guys more than you'll know. Eric, Fred, thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Celebrate 98, the series. First installment. It will roll on a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Thank you, Emo.